Welcome, everybody, to the season finale of Wanna Bet. We have gone through a lot of different cycles of viewing and audio formats during the year. Of course, we were on local television and have all of our episodes posted on YouTube and the Wanna Bet channel, or Facebook page, I should say. And all of those great discussions that Case and I had throughout the year. I'm Kip Keefer with Case Keefer, the sports editor of the Las Vegas Sun and football wagering expert. And we couldn't wrap up the season here on TKR and Spotify without talking about the big game, the Super Bowl, Glendale, Arizona, this coming Sunday. It's the grand finale to the football season. Case, you are just back in Las Vegas from a couple days down in the Phoenix area, and we'll be heading back down there for the game. To start off here, let's give us some insider information of just some things you observed and what your general impressions of both of these teams are, and just kind of give us an overview of how you see this game.
Yeah, I was down there for media night and a bunch of media stuff Tuesday. I don't know at the Super Bowl with thousands of people there if anything's really inside information, but it was certainly eventful. There was a lot going on. The only one reporter really gets to watch the team's practice, so I didn't see him in action. I have gotten the pool reports though, and just the big thing to me, the one big question with this game was just how healthy the Chiefs were going to be. They came out of that AFC Championship win over the Bengals, so beaten up. They basically were down to no receivers. I mean, Marcus Kemp was one of their receivers there at the end of the game, who I don't think anyone's even ever really heard of. So to me, the big question was how healthy they were going to be. And like I said, I haven't seen them play, so I can't say for sure, but I'm feeling pretty good that they're going to be pretty close to full strength by kickoff time. You might have seen they added McCole Hardman to IR, so that is one loss they have, but the rest of the receivers are looking fine. It seemed like Juju Smith-Schuster on media night was kind of going out of his way to show that his knee was doing well. He did a TikTok dance. He jumped down off the podium a couple times. No noticeable limp from Patrick Mahomes. Kadarius Toney said he is absolutely playing despite missing most of that game, just like Juju with a knee injury. And then I've never heard this. I think L'Jarius Sneed scooped the NFL before they could even say that their top cornerback, before they could even say he's out of the concussion protocol. He said he had cleared concussion protocol. So on the Chiefs side, I think a lot of positive injury news. The Eagles, not as much as that. I don't know that they seem to be enjoying the moment. I think not all the Chiefs guys, but a lot of the Chiefs guys had been there before. This is they're kind of the seasoned veterans of the Super Bowl, I guess, if there can be such thing. But the Eagles were more taking in the moment. They have a couple guys that have been on the team for a long time, dating back to when Andy Reid was there. So those guys have been to a Super Bowl, but most of their roster, just younger guys, is kind of their breakthrough season. So a little bit of a different vibe there. But I guess those are just some of the starting observations.
That's interesting. A lot of people are calling this the Andy Reid Bowl because I'm sure folks are aware that he was the longtime head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles before going over to Kansas City. Others are calling it the Kelsey Bowl because you got Travis Kelsey, of course, at Kansas City, but his brother, who plays for the Eagles, has a wife that is expected to give birth any moment, and she's actually planning on being at the game. So a little extra drama for the Kelsey Bowl.
Yeah, and Jason Kelsey, one of those guys I was talking about, who does date back to the Andy Reid tenure. I think this is like his 12th NFL season.
Wow.
I mean, both Kelsey brothers are future Hall of Famers. I think people probably don't even know because he's a guard, but Jason Kelsey, excuse me, has more all pro. I think he's been on like 7 all pro teams to Travis Kelsey's 5. So he's been a super impactful player. And I'd certainly say, at the Super Bowl Media Center and opening night, their mom, Donna Kelsey, was kind of the star of the show. She did a bunch of stuff because it's turned into a big fan event now, and it's gotten a lot better in that regard too. If you ever have a chance to go to one, I think at first I went to the second one ever. I think was the first Super Bowl I covered, and they didn't know how to do it, but they've really made it more of a fan thing now. So they interviewed Donna Kelsey kind of in front of everyone. She played a game where she said which brother was better at which stuff, and Andy Reid and Jason Kelsey from the Eagles seem to have a long conversation. So it's certainly crazy. I think I wrote this. We have a Super Bowl magazine coming out on Thursday. I'm not sure when this is running, but you can check out all my stuff at Las Vegas Sun or Las Vegas Weekly. I wrote this, but it's just crazy that it's not only the first time brothers are facing off in the Super Bowl, but that this is like maybe it's certainly up there with the best pair of brothers ever in NFL history for the first Super Bowl one. And of course you have the baby storyline as well. So yeah, Jason Kelce versus Travis Kelce, certainly getting a lot of attention, and it deserves to, because they're both vital to their team's chances.
To me, it's a great story from all aspects. But for Jason Kelce, who, like you say, is one of the great players in the NFL, but he plays probably the most obscure position to get noticed or notoriety. But the fact that his brother is such a focal point player and such an offensive superstar now kind of shines the light on Jason's career. And I think a lot of people are going to discover that maybe are just casual fans, just how good a player he is, and he's going to finally get the props he deserves if all goes well, like I expect.
Yeah, for sure. And as he said, I mean, they could do. I'm sure this will be beaten to death. I'll talk about a lot of things, but just his career has been so fascinating. They could talk about that for half the broadcast. I dove a little bit more into it this week since I was writing a little bit about him. But yeah, I didn't realize they both were absolutely great players at Cincinnati. But Jason actually walked on initially as a running back. And then they bulked him up, and now he's an offensive lineman in the NFL. So that's not a story you hear very often. And yeah, the Chiefs' pass rush has actually been pretty good this year. Maybe not as much on the interior where Jason will be playing, but I think certainly the trenches up front, especially Philadelphia's offense versus Kansas City's defense, that's going to be a big factor in the game. So we'll see Jason Kelce, kind of the leader of that unit. We'll see how that works out.
Well, it's interesting to me, and we talked about this in the series earlier this year. We were talking about trends and different things to look for. We talked about the critical role of the quarterback on teams, and it really has come down all year to people mentioning, and no disrespect to Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, but the discussion all year has been Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes as the most valuable player candidates in the league. And here they are on opposite sides in the Super Bowl. So the quarterback position, and with the upcoming NFL draft just a couple of months away, there's a lot of speculation depending on who winds up with the first pick after some trades or other things could possibly happen. Quarterbacks have always been highly, highly valued, but is that even transitioning to more emphasis now?
Well, I think so, and I think that this goes back to, I don't know if I've talked about it on this show or before. I just feel like I'm repeating myself a lot of times with some things, but I'm sure most people probably haven't heard me make this point, but maybe heard it somewhere else. And I just don't think it can possibly be overstated how the biggest advantage you can have in the NFL is a good quarterback on a rookie contract. I mean, as soon as a quarterback graduates into their second contract, even if they're like even a mediocre starter, they're going to be making so much money. It really hamstrings you to making upgrades elsewhere. You see the Eagles got here. I believe this might be either the 10th straight Super Bowl or 10th of 11 Super Bowls where it features a team with a quarterback on a rookie contract. So in other words, probably in the first 5 years in the league, this is the first year Mahomes, I think, has been in the Super Bowl where he's not on a rookie contract, but he's Patrick Mahomes. It's just, the way the salary cap is structured, and who knows if it'll always be that way, but the quarterback is obviously such a huge, important position, more important than anyone else on the field. Then if you can get a rookie in at a bargain rate where you can really stack your team everywhere else, is exactly the method the Eagles have used, and it's the method a lot of successful teams have used. You saw the Bengals similarly last year. I know the Rams ended up winning, but I think this all kind of started with the Seahawks when they had those great teams, had Russell Wilson on a rookie contract the first year they won the Super Bowl. And, like the cliche people always say, it's a copycat league. I know there were a lot of people banging the drum for this but before it was really common knowledge 12 years ago. But now I feel like now teams have wised up and they have realized that if you don't have a Patrick Mahomes or an Aaron Rodgers or one of those really top level guys, I mean, the best thing to give you the most shots is to have a loaded roster elsewhere and to hit on someone in the draft. And the Eagles certainly look like they did that with Jalen Hurts. And of course, he wasn't even one of the top guys in his draft, a second round pick. So I do think you'll see teams tripping over themselves in this draft to get their quarterback. We'll have to see how the whole evaluation process goes here. And then again, next year, I think next year is an even stronger quarterback class. So that's just the state of the NFL right now. I agree with you.
Remind people a big part of the theme of our show this year was talking about your approach to football investment as opposed to just betting games. And I always tell people who ask about, follow-up questions about our show and about what you do, that you don't really approach this as some kind of recreational activity where you just have some action on games, which I guess is the overwhelming majority of players approach. You approach your investment strategy on football basically around a system of futures bets and putting things in a long time in advance, where a lot of people would drive them crazy to be holding a certain bet for an entire year. But you've even referred to your activity as a portfolio, which I have found fascinating. But there's a lot of big implications. You've already had some good success. You've given some information on this show preseason talking about the Eagles, and look what they've done. And I know that worked out nicely for you, for them to win the NFC. And we just talked about the MVP race. If the team betting isn't enough, you've got a big rooting interest in Patrick Mahomes receiving a certain award.
Yeah, well, I guess not to. I mean, it just kind of is a culmination of the whole show and what we talked about. Not to pat myself on the back too much, but we're recording this Wednesday, and I believe tomorrow's Thursday, and I think quite possibly going to be the biggest, knock on wood, biggest sports betting day of my life. And I feel like I already kind of have it wrapped up. Just I bet the awards very aggressively, as you said, and there's going to be years where you miss a lot, but this year, just a lot of what I said, and I think I gave a couple of them out on the show, they look like they're going to come to fruition. I think on one of our first shows, I said Patrick Mahomes MVP 10-1 was a ridiculous price for clearly the best player in the NFL. Looks like he's going to hit. I believe I gave both these out, if not maybe one of them, but I liked Nick Bosa at 7-1 to win Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, he went off the board as a gigantic favorite. It'd be a shock if he doesn't win that tomorrow night. Sauce Gardner, I think after week 3 or 4, I believe I mentioned it on the show. I definitely wrote about it, 18-1 to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's going to win that. And then I've mentioned this a few times too. I took you across the border to Arizona to bet Justin Jefferson Offensive Player of the Year at 20-1 going into the season. Looks like he's going to win too. I have a couple other awards that probably an underdog, but are possible. But with those 4, it's going to be a really good Thursday night from a betting perspective. And like you said, I was on the Chiefs and the Eagles. It was actually my Super Bowl pick going into the year. I don't think that's going to be repeatable every year. I think it's probably the first time ever where I nailed both teams, but so had positions on both of those teams. So whoever wins the Super Bowl, I'm looking good there too. I had them NFC and AFC too. And I know it just sounds like I'm listing off my accomplishments and bragging, but that's not what I'm trying to do. I just, I hope the way I talk about it and how I say like positions, that really is how I look at it. Those weren't the only teams I bet, but I kind of tried to time when I thought their prices were too high. And I was really high on the Eagles going into the season. For the Super Bowl, I got them 30-1. I just thought that was way too high. And the Chiefs, it took me a little while. I wasn't sure what to do with the Chiefs with all they lost, and how they built around Mahomes now off that, like we talked about, off the rookie contract. They kind of had to change their roster landscape without having that advantage. They got rid of Tyreek Hill, got rid of a lot of the big name defensive guys, Tyrann Mathieu. So it took me a second, but the more I thought about it, I think Mahomes is such a freak talent. And I believe I ended up getting them at 12-1 to win the Super Bowl. I just think when you have a Patrick Mahomes and what he's capable of, I thought they should be the second or third favorite, not the 5th or 6th. So I think that was actually a later one. I bet the Eagles earlier than that. So both of those worked out. But yeah, certainly I have no problem with doing it the recreational way. If that's what you want, just drop in, have some action, but try to shop for the best numbers and get some edges. And I think that's how everyone starts. It's certainly how I started. But after year after year, after covering this and kind of becoming a big part of my life, I just started to look at it differently and started to try to find ways to win. And I think that's the best way you can do it. Is you got to be ahead of everyone else that's betting, because these markets have millions of dollars in them. They're super efficient. So if you see something or if you believe in something, you kind of have to jump on it and try to beat everyone else. I think that's kind of the tent pole of my philosophy at this point, especially in the NFL.
And I have to add, right at the start of the season, Caleb Williams 16-1 to win the Heisman Trophy. Nice score there as well. Let's start to focus a little bit, and I want to remind everybody this is Wanna Bet. Kip Keefer, Case Keefer, our season finale Super Bowl edition. We've come to you on video, and now we're on the audio side of things on TKR and Spotify. So wherever you're listening to us, it's going to influence my next question to Case, because Case, there are so many more outlets now for sports betting around the country. A lot of states have legalized and have operations. I don't know what the wagering menus, how extensive they are. So before we get into kind of specialized bets, which are a big part of Super Bowl every year, I thought probably the best place to go is start with, I guess, for lack of a better term, the conventional bets, and how you see the traditional point spread and the totals, or whatever you think is readily accessible to most players, wherever they may be, knowing that a lot of the action has been expanded now. But let's just start with the basics and give me, from a betting standpoint, your overview of this game.
Yeah, well, it's very surprising to me that it's held this long. Like I said, I understood the sharpest sports book in the world here, to backtrack just a little bit, opened Chiefs -2.5 on the night of the championship games. There was immediate money on the Eagles, which I kind of agreed with after seeing the state the Chiefs were in. Then it got all the way to Eagles -2. A lot of people you talk to, including myself, always thought it'd probably move back towards the Chiefs. And maybe it still will, but as they get more good injury news, but so far it hasn't. And I'm working on a betting story. One of the things I was doing down in Arizona and talking to some pretty big bookmakers, and they just say all the big money so far, and even most of the recreational money, is on the Eagles. So right now it looks like that number is sticking at Eagles -1.5 or -2. And it's always risky to be disagreeing with the Super Bowl line, and I'm actually not going to bet it personally, just because I have futures on. I mean, I'm in good position. Like I said, I have futures on both of these, so it doesn't really matter who wins. But the chance to get the Chiefs as an underdog is just doesn't seem right to me. I would make them a 1.5 point favorite in this game, especially with the injury situation now. So I do think opening Chiefs -2.5 was too high. But Patrick Mahomes is an underdog. He has a way of defying the numbers, and I can understand if you tweak things and you see how the Eagles have just blown out basically everyone they've played this year, you could come up with thinking the Eagles are the better side. But the Chiefs have a lot of guys too. They have some defensive playmakers. I think they're better defensively and on the offensive line, especially, than they were the last two times they were in the Super Bowl. I think people still look at the rest of their roster as weak, where it's just not as star-studded, but it's still pretty well-rounded. So from a point spread perspective, I would have to take the Chiefs at +2. I think as an underdog, that's the right side. Then the total, I don't have any play on, but I will say it was 49.5 for a while, and I definitely leaned the over then. My official score prediction, 27-24 Chiefs, lands on exactly 51, and that's where we are right now, over under 51 all across the board. I don't see anywhere that's different, at least here in Las Vegas. So I don't know what to tell you on that one. I think that number is perfect.
Yeah, they have a tendency to, you guys in the desert have a tendency to land on just about the perfect total. Respond to this. I think some of the people looking at this game, like you said, are influenced by the fact the Eagles have been so proficient and so dominant. But tell me if you agree with me or not on my assessment. I think the Chiefs defense, I mean, everybody knows about Patrick Mahomes, and like you said, if Schuster and Tony are both back and available, that is just a huge boost for the Chiefs' chances. But I think the Chiefs' defense is really underappreciated, and they just seem like the kind of unit to me that just makes a play when they really have to have it. And a lot of times, to me, that's the formula for a team that's going to go all the way.
Yeah, especially these last two games, you've seen that. I mean, they've come up with some big interceptions, and I just think, their pass rush is pretty formidable now. With, Chris Jones has always been great, and I think you're seeing the rookie, I believe their first round pick, George Karlaftis, really breaking out. And while the defensive backfield is by no means a strength, they like I said, they have some playmakers back there. They have some guys that can do things. I think by most metrics, this is about an NFL average defense. And that might not sound great for a team playing in the Super Bowl, but you look at the defenses that they got to the Super Bowl with in the previous two times with Mahomes, and they were quite a bit worse than that. I will say they've faced a relatively weak opposition in terms of rushing offenses. And what do we know that the Eagles do best is run the ball. So I would be a little bit worried about how they match up from a run perspective, but I agree with you. I think all the talk of the Eagles having such a better roster than the Chiefs, aside from quarterback, is a little overblown. I do think the Eagles are are probably better top to bottom, but I think it's a lot closer, and I think some of the defensive guys you're alluding to are part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like, and I guess Jalen Hurts now is completely cut loose. I think he's clearly their most dangerous rushing weapon. The running backs, I'm not going to call them average, but Sanders and Scott are really good, solid running backs, but neither one of them would really be considered a superstar. So containing Jalen Hurts and kind of making him be able to throw the ball down the field, I think the Eagles are going to have to do a lot of that because, I mean, if I'm the Chiefs defensive coordinator, my first priority is just to contain best we can Jalen Hurts because I think he really makes that team go when he's running wild.
Yeah, there's a little bit of injury concerns with Miles Sanders too. You didn't see him play much in the second half of the last game. I'm still pretty high on him. I think he could be a bad matchup for the Chiefs, hypothetically. And you saw Kenneth Gainwell really go off in the NFC Championship game.
That's a good point.
But I agree. I mean, Hurts though, I feel like it's kind of gotten brushed under the rug a little bit. I'm not totally sold on him being fully healthy either. I mean, he had that shoulder injury. He just hasn't had to do much in the two playoff games because they've blown out the teams. Going into the Giants game, I mean, he even said he wasn't still 100%. It was really nice they had the bye week because it was still banged up. And then last week, I think he took a big hit at one point when the game was still relatively close against the 49ers. And then the Eagles didn't throw for I think it was like 14 or 15 straight plays. So I'm not saying I'm sure he's probably 80 or 90%. But there's so much focus on Mahomes' injury. I think we forget that Hurts is dealing with one too. So there's some uncertainty in that regard as well. I do think, if we're talking about props, a guy I might want to buy low on is probably, you would say, the most talented guy on this offense. That their biggest weapon is AJ Brown, who's really done nothing in the playoffs. Just a large reason because he hasn't had to. Like you said, though, the Chiefs, maybe they will give you some opportunities to go deep downfield, and I know Devontae Smith has been good in those roles, but I think AJ Brown's just such a freak talent. I think they're going to find a way to get him more involved this game. So if you're looking for some fun props, nothing too scientific behind this, but I wouldn't mind giving a shot with AJ Brown. I feel like this game's going to be close finally. I can't see a game script where they're blowing them out like the last two games. And I think they're going to need AJ Brown to be more involved.
Well, you did a great job of segueing here. We got about 6 or 7 minutes left, and I really wanted to get into the prop betting and the different very interesting approaches that are taken. And some of them are just ridiculous, the length of the national anthem and all those kind of things, the coin toss. But I guess they're all intriguing. But let's start on that by asking you which style of prop bets appeal to you most? Individual player performances in terms of over under certain yardages, or who's going to score the first touchdown? Do you like the individual, or do you like the game trends on, the Chiefs are going to, kick the first field goal, or the Eagles are going to have the first turnover? Just give us kind of what your favorite flavor on props is.
Yeah, there's just like a million things. So there's so many categories, but yeah, I think the individual are probably the simplest, and a lot of the crazy props, especially like the cross sports ones, where there's pairing it with different things, really just come down to a number of what you expect on the player. So individuals are my favorites. Like we've already kind of alluded to, I kind of like the future styles betting, or the index props, so to speak. So even before the Super Bowl, I love betting first touchdown scorer. So I have a few of those this week. MVP stuff like that. I love the index. I will say I haven't bet as many props this year. It always seems to kind of work this way when I'm actually covering the Super Bowl. My focus is elsewhere. When I'm here just doing the betting stuff, I have like a million props. So I haven't bet a ton, but I have looked at them quite a bit. I like, but my favorite would be the individual props and some of the index ones.
Well, just throw out for our listeners who have been following your every word this year, maybe just a couple of names. You don't have to go into a lot of details, but just a couple of names of who you think may score first and who's the best values.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you can find this. I only got it at one sports book here, but my favorite bet actually, and of course it's probably not going to win at this price. It's 60-1, but I like Noah Gray to score the first touchdown for the Chiefs. Of course, tight end. They actually designed some plays at the goal line for him. I feel like the Eagles have the defensive pieces that they're going to be all over Kelsey. They'll be known to look for him around the end zone. But if it's not an explosive first score and they're down near the goal line, I wouldn't be surprised if Gray got a shot. So it's 60-1. I took a chance with him. The other one I bet was I think because of the bum ankle, we were getting a little bit of a good price on Mahomes. I bet him at 32-1 to score the first touchdown. Probably a little bias. He cashed for me at 20-1, I believe, in the 2019 Super Bowl first touchdown. So I took him. And then I wanted to take one of the chalky guys for the Eagles. So I bet three of them. I took A.J. Brown. I believe I got him at 11-1. I think there's nothing wrong with Sanders either, but Sanders, I couldn't even find. You can only find 9-1 or lower. I kind of wanted double digits. There are still a lot of the guys on those Eagles offense. So, those are the three I went with. Knock on wood, I cashed last year with Odell Beckham. Noah Gray would be really nice, though, and maybe a guy you can target in some of those individual props because I really do think he might be a little bit bigger piece of the offense than people realize, and maybe they run a play or two designed for him.
Yeah, and if the receivers still are a little bit depleted, although the reports are good, I mean, you don't have to use Kelsey as a conventional tight end, but if you're going to mess around and line him up in different places and split him out like a wide receiver, which he's certainly capable of doing, then Noah Gray figures to be on the field even more.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. And Kelsey, I mean, some of the players like Kelsey that are just getting so much love. I feel like you kind of just have to stray from them in the Super Bowl unless you want to bet under, which I might do. I think a good strategy before kickoff is some of the biggest names just bet unders and nos because that's all people are betting are the overs. They want those tickets. These numbers get a little inflated. I do already have some exposure though on Kelsey. I took a position on him. I believe I'd have to check the number, but I think I had like 15-1 to lead the league in receiving yards in the playoffs, and I think he's like 70 yards away. So I'm hoping, and the people ahead of him aren't playing, so no one from the Eagles is really in range. So I'm hoping he has a big game, and maybe I could try to even hedge that with a little under. But yeah, I think you're looking at it the right way. You got to kind of take into account those injury situations and stuff. That's one thing to think about. I mean, like we talked about earlier, Kadarius Toney says he's certainly playing, but we know McCole Hardman's not, and maybe Tony's not 100%. And if Tony's not 100%, another Chiefs guy they could use more would be Sky Moore, who we've seen, when he's healthy, they've tried to get him involved. You kind of have to decide what you think about Tony, if Tony's going to be 100% or not. But if he's not, there could be some opportunities for Sky Moore. And on the flip side, just to narrow it down really basically, I like to buy low and sell high. Like I said, buy low on A.J. Brown. I wouldn't mind selling high on Marquez Valdez-Scantling after his just huge AFC championship game. He's a great player, but he was really the only one healthy. So I don't think he's going to have another game like that. He might be a guy along with Kelsey, unfortunately, that I think I'd have more of an immediate lean to under.
And if you're listening and scratching your head saying Sky Moore, who's that? Well, Sky Moore is probably, in my mind, one of the major reasons the Chiefs are at the Super Bowl. The punt return that set up the winning field goal was arguably the biggest play in that game, and it was Sky Moore was the culprit with about a 30-yard run back that put them right on the edge of field goal position with less than a minute to go.
Yeah, rookie from Western Michigan. I think they might have got him in the second or third round. And
wow.
Yeah, it seemed like they loved him a lot. And he got hurt kind of mid-season, so he hasn't really had the breakout they wanted. But he's been pretty solid. It seems like they trust him now. So yeah, he might be a guy to look for on the Kansas City side.
Well, we've run out of time already. We could discuss all these things all night long, but appreciate all of your insights, and I hope you will have a great experience at this Super Bowl, and know that everybody here on Wanna Bet, including your co-host here, is going to be living vicariously through you as you watch the game on Sunday and cover it for the Las Vegas Sun. And tell people how they can read all of your material, where they can go to access everything that you crank out on this game and everything moving forward, because you don't take any time off. You'll be writing about props and different things all throughout the off season.
Yeah, a ton of stuff is about to drop on LasVegasSun.com, or probably find it on LasVegasWeekly.com too, or just search Case Keefer. It'd be easy to find a list of all my stories. So yeah, got a ton of Super Bowl stuff coming up, a couple betting stories as well. So yeah, should be a good time. Looking forward to it. I'd say if I have to leave you with one final prop, I think probably one of the best hits we had on Wanna Bet all year, like you alluded to, is Patrick Mahomes to win the overall MVP. I like him to win the MVP of the game as well. I bet him at plus 140. It's come down a little bit. I still see like a plus 130 out there, maybe a plus 120. That still implies there's like a 5 to 7% chance that someone other than the Chiefs would win the MVP if they win the game. And I just think it would take the most spectacular effort ever for someone other than Mahomes to win the MVP. So maybe if you want to get creative and you like the Chiefs like I do, instead of betting the Chiefs, maybe just go for a little bit higher payout of Mahomes MVP.
Sounds good, Case. Thank you for a great season. So many fantastic insights. I can't tell you how much positive feedback I've gotten on this series of shows that we've done and all the subjects we tackled. So I know I speak for everybody who are loyal listeners to Wanna Bet. Thank you for all of your efforts and have a great Super Bowl.
All right. Yeah. Thanks a lot for all year. Talk to you guys later.
Okay. That's Kip and Case signing off on this season of Wanna Bet. We will be keeping you posted on 2023. It'll be here before you know it. Thanks for joining us and have a fantastic football weekend, everybody.